So welcome and hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for Watershed Wednesday. Um, Today is sponsored by ENE Systems of Canton, Massachusetts. I'm Carrie Snyder. I'm the Advocacy Director for the Neponset River Watershed Association, and I'm going to be your moderator today. The Neponset River Watershed Association is a small nonprofit member-supported group, and our mission is to protect the Neponset River, its tributaries, and surrounding watershed land. Today's presentation will be by Julia Blatt. She's the Executive Director of Massachusetts Rivers Alliance. Mass Rivers is a nonprofit environmental advocacy group with a mission to protect and restore the Commonwealth's rivers and streams. And she's going to be talking to us today about the unique challenges and rewards of organizing the state's large and diverse river advocate community to strengthen river protection and climate resiliency in Massachusetts. So take it away, Julia.
Thank you, Carrie. So first of all, thank you, Neponset River Watershed Association, for inviting me. Oh, hold on. All right, there, little thing on my face. Thank you for inviting me to come speak to you today. It's nice to be here. Well, here, I wish I were actually with you. It's nice to see you. And to people who are here, thank you for being here on such a beautiful, beautiful day when I know that you might be thinking about taking a walk outside. So I hope that either you've already done that or you'll do it after, because it's just such a nice day. So my talk is mainly about Mass Rivers Alliance. If you're not familiar with us, a little bit about what we do and what we do for the rivers and how we work with our organizations, including NEPRA. So I have a little presentation, and when I'm done with that, I really love to have a conversation with about anything on your mind to do with river protection. So I'm going to share my screen and take you through that. First, before I do, I just want to make sure you can hear me, right? You can see me? Okay, excellent. All right, so bear with me as I find the presentation and share the screen. All right, so I hope you guys can see that. Also, Carrie, that's visible? Okay.
Yep, work. Great.
So it's called Organizing for Our Rivers, and that's my organization up at the top, and that's my daughter in the Concord River. All right. Okay, I realize I cannot move this with the faces there. All right. So first, just a reminder about why we care about rivers. I know everybody here is because you're all here because you care about rivers, but I love to look at them, and hopefully you will too. And I have photos, all the photos are taken in Massachusetts somewhere, and I hope you'll agree with me that we just have an incredible variety of wonderful rivers in our state. So this is the Swift River. We care because rivers all of them are home to wildlife, and great blue herons are everywhere. Again, the Swift, this is a frog. Rivers are just lots of fun. You can do so many fun things and play on the rivers. And here's this is a tributary of the Taunton called the Nemasket River. Here's the Mystic. I know urban rivers are near and dear to your hearts as well as mine. I live in this watershed, and we were, this was actually, pandemic had started, and we thought this would be one way we could get together safely last fall, or I guess last August, so we were on the Mystic. And of course, fishing is another thing you can do on rivers. Here's the Neponset. Somebody went canoeing. I don't think I took this one. Oops. And oh, here's the Nashua. Kids playing. So most of these I took, but not all of them. So, so this one, I can't see. What was this? The Westport? Yes, this was the Westport River. Another thing I love about rivers is they're just incredibly beautiful. And this is a coastal river down by Cape Cod, and it's a lovely one. All right. Again, the Swift, which is not just a photogenic river, but we have a very good photographer friend who takes it in all seasons. Ipswich, that's another one of my favorites because it has so much wildlife. If you have not kayaked it or canoed it, I recommend it. And then of course, rivers are the site of iconic public art. So this is your river, obviously, and another pretty one from the Neponset. And then just a few other things about rivers that I didn't photograph. I thought this year they were particularly good for our mental health because we had a pandemic. I went out almost every single weekend to a river in Massachusetts all summer, actually starting in the early spring and going until November. So I don't know what I would have done without that. They boost property values if they're taken care of. They're obviously a source of drinking water. Again, if the water around them, if the land around them is protected, they can be a good source of climate resiliency because they soak up that flood water that the land around them does, that is. And then if you make sure there's access, anyone can enjoy a river. So they're sort of equal opportunity. And they're basically just awesome. So, and they have their share of problems. We are a very small state, but we have a really amazing diversity of river problems in our state. And I listed a few here: stormwater pollution, wastewater pollution, and nutrients from septic systems, dry streams. We have a lot of disconnected streams. We have about 3,000 dams in Massachusetts. We have roads. We have about, I think it's 20,000 culverts. So we have a lot of problems with those disconnections. We have invasive plants. We have cyanobacteria. We have some access issues for people. We have trash. And then some of our rivers even have user conflicts. And I'm thinking in particular of the Deerfield River, where there's some conflicts between people that want to go paddling, canoeing, some people that want to go down in their rafts and drink beer. And it's, especially last summer was a tough one. So I took some photos or brought you some photos of these problems. This is stormwater going into the Mystic. Actually, I think this is a CSO. This is invasive plants in the Assabet, or this is actually eutrophication. This is nutrient pollution in the Assabet. Here's a culvert that's looks like it's a perch culvert in the Westfield River. So it's a little bit above its stream. So the water can't get through, but also fish can't get through. So if you're a fish and you want to get to the other side, you're kind of out of luck when you get to this culvert. So that's not very good. This one I had as a culvert failure, but actually this looks like something else is going on. This is a just disgusting something bubbling up from a manhole. And you can see that the car can't get across. So this is an infrastructure problem, and I might be the Mystic, not sure. Here's a dam in 10 Mile River, and I think everyone's familiar with the problems of dams. And then here's a picture. This is an invasive plant picture, and I'm not quite sure where it is, but I think this was early-ish, if you can sort of tell by the foliage, early in the season. So in another month or two, you would not be able to get through that stream in a boat. So here's we have in Massachusetts a lot of streams that run dry when they shouldn't. And we do know that with dry weather, we'll get low flow. But when we have a lot of consumption of water nearby, they go drier than they should. And so I like this picture because it shows who suffers when we do this to our streams. So it's kind of, I think, more dramatic than just showing a dry stream bed. This one has a fish. This river, we also have some rivers that are straight, that should not be as straight as they are. This one was straightened out. This is up in the northwest corner of our state in North Adams, and this is the Hoosick River that's been straightened and rip-wrapped. And then here's another picture of, this is Mass Mocha. If you've been out there, it's also the Hoosick River, and it's actually been completely encased in concrete in this part of the river for quite a ways. And I think of this as a way to torture a river. And this is a lovely board member who's trying to bring that river back to life and her whole area. So we have a lot of issues to work on. So next, I'm just going to talk about us, why we have Mass Rivers. And before we came along, which now was almost 12 years ago, there were lots of great watershed groups in Massachusetts working on individual rivers. There are also a bunch of wonderful statewide groups working on all kinds of environmental issues, which sometimes included water, but often didn't. So there really wasn't anybody who worked consistently, worked on statewide river stuff and did it consistently. So there was a hole in the world. As a result, I would say agencies that protected rivers were not really well funded consistently because nobody went and advocated for that. The laws were not always well enforced, particularly pollution laws, stormwater, a lot of different laws that affect rivers. Nobody cared enough in the agencies to do that because they were so under-resourced. As you know, some of the rivers hadn't been monitored by the state for a good 15 years, and stream flow wasn't being protected well. And in addition, I'd say there weren't just any like exciting new initiatives happening because there was not that many people there to make them happen. So you see the problems that you saw before. So what is it that we are doing? So when we started, we asked a lot of groups how we could help. And we heard, because we have so many problems, we heard a lot of answers: invasive species, Water Management Act, water quality monitoring, removing dams, removing nitrogen, road salt, stormwater permits, wild and scenic rivers, helping fight power plants, lobbying our legislators. And I can't see what's underneath because your faces are there. Oh, oops. Anyway. So we had 1.5 staff at that point. So it was a little bit overwhelming for us to try and figure out what the heck we could do about all those problems. But at least we knew what people were worried about. So what we did was we came together and we had about 50 different groups represented in the room, and they were not yet our members. They were just people that we wanted to talk to. And together we picked priority issues. And I want to say Neponset was there right from the beginning. Ian was actually on the group that interviewed me, who has been on the board the entire time. So in their wisdom, or our collective wisdom, we picked stream flow. And you can sort of think back to the pictures you just saw. Stream flow was a big one. Protecting and restoring water quality, protecting and restoring habitat for biodiversity, and then finally investing in green water infrastructure. So we were kind of a little group with a big mission. And then a couple of years ago, our board added to that with climate resiliency, which is kind of underlies everything we do, but we wanted to be more explicit about it. And environmental justice, again, as a lens through which we view our work and something that we want to make sure we continue to work on. So everything we do touches one or more of these, and often several of them. And then this is just a picture. Over the years, we added to our membership, and we have now about 80 member groups, and this is where they are, and the heart is you. So we have 1 in Connecticut, 2 in Rhode Island, and then about 77 in Massachusetts, as you would imagine, with a group called the Massachusetts Rivers Alliance. So we're happy that they span the whole state. And then this is just showing you, we started with 14 in 2009 when I started, and now we're up to 80. So we've been growing every year, and we don't usually lose them. Okay, and then this is my most boring looking slide, but it's kind of an important one, I think. This is the work we do. And as you see in the slide, NEPR has played a leadership role. And I thought, just to understand the slide, the check marks are things that we did, that we accomplished. Some of them need to be accomplished over and over and over, like annual operating budgets for the state. When we advocate for it and we do well, we have to do it again the next year. So the little gears are for things we're working on. So some things get a check and a gear. And then, so some things are new. They just have a gear, and some things we've done already. And then the things that are in green are the things where NEPRA has really played a leadership role. So just so that you guys could see that. And I'll just talk a little bit quickly about the things that you guys have worked on and might care about. And so starting with stream flow, Ian was a very active person with the Water Management Act 4-year negotiation thing that we went through with the state to try and improve those regulations to protect stream flow in Massachusetts. And I would say none of us think that that was a slam dunk for us. We all walked away disappointed with what we ended up with, but I do think it's better than it would have been had we not been involved. We are currently working with the state again on new regulations for some water that's currently sort of unregulated by the state, some water allocation, to make sure, with really the goal that when we have a drought, people will be required to stop outdoor non-essential watering in our state, which I think is still kind of amazing that we do it during a drought. So we're working on that together. We recently started a technical advisory program to help our member groups with their Water Management Act permits. And again, that's to protect stream flow. Ian is on an advisory group to that and helping guide that program. And you guys are kind of ahead of a lot of other groups in that. So it's nice to have some good advice. Water quality, you guys have always been leaders in anything to do with stormwater, along with some of the other urban watersheds like Mystic River Watershed Association, but we've been commenting on permits. And then when the state's permit was sort of withheld by the Trump administration a few years ago, we filed a lawsuit together with 9 of our groups, including Neponset, to require the EPA to do its job and implement that permit, which they then did. And then the other 2 green ones, last year we passed a sewage notification bill. We're very proud of that, so that people now know if there's sewage in their water, which again is something that seems kind of like a no-brainer. And that was not, the legislature was extremely supportive of that. So now when you have a combined sewer overflow or a sanitary sewer spill in your river, which I think is more the case in the Neponset, there's a requirement that whoever's responsible for it notifies the public. So that's a good thing. If you're recreating in the river, you want to know if it's safe.
Julie, just wanted to let you know it's about 10 up.
Oh, sorry, I'm almost done. Okay, and then finally, we are, I put this green because I'm hoping that Neponset's going to play a nice leading role with us on working to get some investment in green infrastructure, water infrastructure, which we think is ripe for moving in this legislative session. All right, sorry about that. I know it was a long and wordy slide, but it was lots. And then I just have a couple of pictures of things that are better than they were before. And this is just an example of a better stream crossing. And so one of the things that we do is we advocate every year for resources for the Division of Ecological Restoration, and they work with municipalities and other people to improve their stream crossings, and so that the bad culverts go away and we get good culverts or bridges. And so this is just an example of something that's a lot more natural, that obviously the stream can flow through and fish can pass through. So this is a goal, and we are slowly seeing more of these appear around the state. And then finally, just last picture is the Westfield River, because it's a beautiful river in Western Mass, and it's a wild and scenic river. And that's another thing we do is advocate for more federal money for wild and scenic, and we give them some assistance. Okay, so moving on. Last achievement, bringing the community together. If you look carefully, you will see familiar faces there. Carrie with her curly hair, I think. And how can you help? My last slide. You probably know all these things. We have a lobby for the Rivers Day on March 18th. If you're interested, Mass Rivers organizes that, and you can just look on our website for that. Support your local watershed, and you know about it because you're here, the Neponset River Watershed Association. You support them. They do amazing work, and you may already know this, but they're not just great for Neponset. They really are a statewide leader because you have the amazing Ian Cook and his fabulous staff. So I would say they need you. If you also want to support Mass Rivers, we would love that. We work together, as I hope is clear from my presentation, and be a water steward. I would say you probably know this. Don't waste your water. Don't put anything on your lawn or driveway that doesn't belong in the river, because anything that goes on your lawn or driveway eventually will end up in a river. Elected officials who care about the environment, when you meet them, ask them what they're doing for rivers. Make sure they understand that you're a constituency and you care, because that really, they will hear it, they will remember it, and it will help us when we go meet with them. And then finally, well, not finally, almost, be willing to invest in the environment. It does sometimes cost a little more to take good care of anything, including your river. So water rate increases is one thing you can do to help make sure that environmental impact is covered in your water supply. And then, okay, this is the last one, get out and enjoy a river. And I would, if you want any suggestions about rivers around the state, I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to give them to you because I've been to so many recently. And I want to hear from you. Where's the best place to put in and then Neponset? I think that's my last slide. Oh, here's my last slide. This is just our basic contact information slide. And we do have social media. If you want to follow us and aren't already, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So I'm going to stop my share. And apologize for going on too long. Sorry.
You did not go on too long. Thank you so much, Julia, for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you very much for mentioning Lobby Day. We have been making appointments with the Neponset legislators, and so anybody who can join us, it's a virtual Lobby Day, so you can do it from the comfort of your home. Go visit the Mass Rivers website or contact me at snyder@neponset.org, and I'll help you register. So again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We have one from Ellen Schoenfeld Beeks. How do we address equity issues, and how do water rate increases do that?
So that is a complicated question, and it's a good question, but I would say, first of all, water rate increases do not by themselves address equity issues at all. So water rate increases need to be structured in a way that well, there's a lot of different ways to think about water rate increases, but and there's a lot of, I would say there's certainly some controversy over how to do them. But one thing that I think a water rate increase should do is it should not be too expensive for some basic amount of water, so that when you so that you can pay for the water that you need, and it shouldn't be a crazy amount of money. However, past that amount, whatever that is, it's okay to charge people a lot more money if they're using excessive water, which is actually what a lot of people do, a lot of water suppliers do. The challenge is that in order to, so there's a few challenges. One is that it turns out that increasing the cost of water is not really a huge disincentive for most people. So you also need regulation to get people to use less water. And so that's part of what we're working on. The other challenge for water suppliers is that no matter how much water they bring in, it's often not quite enough to meet their needs. And so as long as they have a financial incentive to sell more and more water, it's very difficult to get them to stop selling more and more water. And then another challenge for them is that the way the Water Management Act is supposed to work is that if your water supply sales really impact depleted streams, you are supposed to do mitigation. That's not always easy for them to do mitigation, which could be something like pulling out a dam or protecting land or doing some kind of water recharge project if they don't have enough money. And so that's where raising rates raising the total amount of water of rates helps the water supplier and also helps the environment. But it just needs to be done in a way that is, as this person pointed out, equitable. So it's not borne by people who can't afford it. So, and the state is actually working on that. There's a state agency, part of DCR, that's working with water suppliers to kind of modernize their rates to achieve enough money for them, the money they need, while being equitable and fair, and also protecting the environment.
Thank you, Julia. I know you have to run to another meeting. So I guess the last question I'll ask is, does Mass Rivers Alliance have any sort of rating system for legislators that are particularly good or particularly bad on water issues or environmental issues?
No, we don't do that. We've kind of stayed away from, I'm not even sure if we could do that with our 501c3. I mean, honestly, we're not supposed to endorse anyone in particular or do anything like that. But I can, some are really wonderful. And I actually, what I can tell you is, well, if you look at our website and our Facebook page and you look at who we're thanking, those are usually the people that have been active. And if you look at who's sponsoring the bills that we've introduced, that's another way to figure it out. But one thing I can say is that over the years since I've been working with, statewide, which is about 12 years, in general, the whole legislature, the state legislature, has really moved on this to where people now understand why DEP matters, why rivers need protection. They're more willing to support the stuff we're doing. So I'd say in general, they're getting better and better. And really, I can't say this enough, the way to get them to be better is to just tell them you care about it, because they always care what their constituents care about. And if it's important to you and you convey that to them, it will be important to them as well. So thanks for doing that. Was there another question?
If you have time, another question is, can you, discuss briefly some of the issues with Mass DEP funding and, what our progress is in fixing these, what other people can do to make sure that they get the funding that they need.
Come to lobby day. That's the short answer is come to lobby day, and always, talk to your legislators about it. And we have, if you're interested, if you're going to go and you can't make it to lobby day, but you think you'll be talking to your legislators at some point, you should contact me or Catherine Lang in our office, and we have information that we can share with you so that you don't go empty-handed, so that you can tell them, this is why we need the money. This is, this is the kind of work they're doing now, and this is what they could do with more money. So I can give you just one little statistic about them. They were at their high, they had 1,200 people. Then at their low, they were down to about 600, about half, and now they're back up to about 9. But during that time, and that's, the last 10 years or so, the work they're doing has increased as well. So they still have fewer people than they had before, and they're being asked to do more. They're being asked to do PFAS remediation, or, they're dealing with that. They're dealing with lead. They're dealing with our new sewage notification bill. They're also working hard on diversity, equity, and inclusion within their agency, and on environmental justice issues. So it's, plus there's a lot. They're also, the Water Management Act has gotten more complicated. So they have more work to do, and they're trying to take some new initiatives. Their new staff are, tend to be really good, but they're still, I'd say, pretty severely under-resourced. So I think I do have to go, because I have the Drought Management Task Force is meeting a minute ago, and all right. I'm on.
Thank you so much again for your time, Julia.
Thank you so
really
much.
Appreciate
it was nice to see you. Go outside, enjoy the day.
Thank you again to E&E Systems of Canton for sponsoring Watershed Wednesdays, and don't miss us April 14th, when Debbie Merriam of the Mary May Binney Wakefield Arboretum in Milton will visit us and discuss the impact of invasive species in the Neponset River watershed. And of course, visit neponset.org for more information about us and Lobby Day. So thanks a lot.